family. Welcome to African Esquire TV. I'm your host, Tony Cherie. Before we get started, if you have not already, please do like, comment, and subscribe, and also hit the notification button if you're watching on YouTube. In addition, please add yourself to my Telegram channel. Telegram is a decentralized platform, which is very important as we keep trying to put out content for our liberation. In addition, please add yourself to my channel on Odyssey. Odyssey is a lot like YouTube, but no censorship, so that's very important. So I remember a couple years ago, I was so happy when I seen that the South African Parliament was looking towards land expropriation without compensation. And a lot of people were cheering on that move. However, we're seeing evidences that once again, it looks like the land issue might still be one for South Africans to deal with for going into the future, because it does not look like the parliament in that state is ready or willing to actually see a type of situation where the people have some type of control over their land.
The ANC and the EFF have still not agreed to what kind of change they want to make to the constitution around what land ownership would look like if the constitution is changed to allow expropriation without compensation. The two parties have to vote together to change the constitution because there has to be a two-thirds majority in parliament to do it. The Democratic Alliance has said it will vote against any change to the land clause. The economic freedom fighters say it will not vote with the African National Congress unless it means that the state has custody of the land, or what you could call land nationalization. The ANC says it believes there should be land tenure. In other words, if you have a piece of land, it's yours. You own it, you can pass it on to your children. Well, let's speak now to Bulelwa Mabasa, Director, Head of Land Reform and Restitution and Tenure at Werksman's Attorneys. Bulelwa, good afternoon to you. I need to start with some definitions. What exactly is full state custodianship of land? I suppose land nationalization. What does that really mean?
So those two things are two different concepts in law, Stephen. If we may start with custodianship. So if you recall, in 2003, our mining legislation was changed in order to make provision for custodianship. What that means was that all the minerals in South Africa are held in custody by the state. And if you want to mine minerals, you then apply to the state, and the state issues you with permits and licenses. So that's what state custodianship is. It's basically where the state holds land in custody or on behalf of. And then, as I said, permits and licenses are issued. Nationalization is quite a different concept from custodianship. Nationalization means that all land is then owned by the state itself. So that would mean that with nationalization, there would be an eradication of private property ownership premise. In South Africa today, the constitution that regulates land and land ownership does not make provision for everyone to have a right to land. So if you look at our constitution, especially the Bill of Rights, you have the right to life, you have a right to the right to a safe environment, a clean environment, and so forth. But when it comes to property, the constitution phrases it in a slightly different way, where it says that nobody can be deprived of land unless it is done by a law of general application. What that tells you is that fundamentally, our constitution actually does not recognize that anyone has the right to own land. That's the first thing. The second thing is that we need to understand that over 60% of South Africans actually don't have land rights that are legally recognizable. So here we're talking about people that are living in informal settlements, people that are living on rural land where they don't have title deeds, or where they don't have lease agreements, where they are, either don't have any recognizable or registered land rights at all, or they have permissions to occupy, which form part of legislation that is yet to be developed. So the fundamental question here, beyond whether we should have nationalization or whatever it is, there needs to be an agreement among South Africa, a South African vision on what forms of title to land does South Africa want to have, because we still have the apartheid system where the majority of the black poor people in urban and rural areas actually don't have legally recognizable instruments, unlike people in urban areas that have title deeds, lease agreements, and so
So
forth.
let's read very quickly through this. This article says, do not politic with the land, Malema warns Ramaphosa as he cranks up pressure on the ANC over an amendment. The EFF leader, Julius Malema, used the debate on the presidency's budget vote to turn up the heat on the ANC in its negotiations on the forum, the amendment to Section 25 of the Constitution to allow expropriation without compensation. The two parties have reached an impasse at the ad hoc committee on Section 25, necessitating a postponement of the committee's deadline to the end of the month. The EFF wants the state to hold all land in custodianship, while the ANC proposes a mixed model with state custodianship and private ownership. Participating in the debate during Wednesday's hybrid plenary of the National Assembly, Malema said the EFF would not vote for a constitutional amendment that refused to acknowledge state custodianship of Africa's land because they knew that expropriation of land piece by piece would take them more than 100 years to reclaim the land. Without the EFF's vote, the ANC would have to not have the numbers to pass the constitutional amendment. And Malema said there was a difference between nationalism and state custodianship. According to him, nationalism, the state controls assets and it's used for the collective benefit of the population, saying it is the case of custodianship that the state would be a conduit for the people to use the land. Malema added that this did not mean that people's houses would be confiscated, saying it was the most practical way. With the land in custody, we will have a strong, clear, and confident legislation on land tenure to protect our people from corrupt and unscrupulous officials. He said Ramaphosa was bluffing on the land question. The land is not something you can politic. You can either give it to us, you're either with us or you're with them. And honestly, I really agree with what Malema's saying right here. I mean, if you understand the reason that colonialism has been allowed and able to maintain such a strong dominance inside of African societies decades after these countries supposedly were decolonized, a big reason of that is because of the allowance of private ownership. We think that private ownership means that, hey, anyone can buy, but first of all, you have to look at it like this. Who has the head start? Who is the one that's most capable of buying up the land? And we know that is the European capitalists. They are the most able. They've racketed up all of our resources. They have all the money. They have lots of money from taking resources, from making us workers, making us slaves. And so they have the money to put forth to ensure that they are able to buy up the land. So if you're having a situation where you're having a private ownership model, the question is, what percentage of private ownership are you allowing? Number two, if the whole idea is expropriation of the land, then why would you then put that expropriated land back into the hands of private individuals? Whereas in a custodianship model, it reminds me a lot of a trust. Whereas in traditional African societies, lands were held in trust and people would hold them or would occupy them based on their needs, not based on their ability to acquire as much as they want. So it looks like Ramaphosa is doing what a lot of people probably predicted. That is, he's going with ways to try to help the dominant system ensure that they are remain intact inside of that country. And of course, I'm not surprised. But I was very hopeful, I would say, that maybe this is going to be a change of a tide. So this is just a quick little video. I wanted to bring people up to date on what's happening in South Africa. Continue to watch, continue to pay attention, continue to scrutinize, because understand that South Africa as a country is very much essential, I believe, to setting precedent for the land confiscations that happen to our people. I think it's very essential because this country is looked at as the prototype of apartheid. And if we have the prototype of apartheid, have an equitable land system where African people are actually able to be in control of their own destinies, that is going to be a very strong statement for Africans in Namibia, Africans who are still fighting sanctions in Zimbabwe. It's going to be a strong message for other settler colonies throughout the world. So this is something that we'll keep watching. And with that, I will see you all in the next video. Hey family, this is Tierney Cherie. I'm here to make an announcement that I'm very, very excited to make. I'm excited because I really think this is something that is important for our people. Otherwise, I would not have devoted so much time and energy towards it. So I finished my first book, and the book title is Fostering False Identity, the Child Welfare System's Design of Social Control of the Black Family. Now, why is this book something that I think will be very important for our community? Well, number one, it's dealing with the system of white supremacy, particularly the the way that the system has targeted our children. If you don't know, our children are literally our future. Without our children, we have no future. And so understand that the system is very crafty when figuring out what to derail first. And to me, it's no mistake that the system particularly went after the Black family. If you look at what happened whenever we were enslaved by this system, and continues to go after the Black family, continues to go after Black children, continues to try to villainize African parents. So for that, I wanted to particularly talk about this subject. Now, the other thing that the book will deal with is our African identities. Why is it that our African identities are a threat to the system? Why is it that whenever we want to identify ourselves as being African, we get so much drawback inside of the Black community? I think a lot of us are not aware of the history of assimilationist thought inside of our community, this idea that we have to be close to white in order to be accepted. And so that's another subject that we delve into in this book. So I'm hoping that anyone who is, obviously, if you're a parent, a Black parent, and you really want to understand why it is that these systems are going after your children, I encourage you to read this book. I hope that it will arm you with a lot of knowledge and a lot of foresight, not just about how to protect your own children, but how to organize in your community, because that's really the purpose of the book, is to say that we have to organize among ourselves in order to protect ourselves from this white supremacist system. And then obviously, if you're an organizer in general, this is something that I think is important for you to read, because like I said, this is a subject in the Black community that we just don't discuss enough. Child welfare is not something that is going to get enough attention. People obviously will organize them around other causes, but this is one that is really important that I feel like we have to pay more attention to.